Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing? Thank you so much for tuning in to Nerdy for 30, the podcast where comedian Tim Keck and I talk about nerdy-ish things for 30-ish minutes. Today, we're going to be talking about She-Hulk. I'm very excited to talk about this. Tim, how are you tonight? Are you thrilled? Are you as excited to talk about this as I am?
I loved She-Hulk. I thought it was so good. I really enjoyed it. Loved, liked, enjoyed in the past tense because the show was perfect until the finale. The finale was absolute garbage. It was an embarrassing cop-out. Spoilers ahead for She-Hulk. The finale sucks. Up until that point, I thought they'd figured it out, Kevin. I thought they got it. Watching She-Hulk, I was like, okay, Marvel finally knows what TV is. This is like an actual TV show. This is actually something that could just go on for 5 seasons. It's awesome. It's aimless in a fun TV way, and then just completely shits the bed with shitty, lazy writing. And it was pathetic, honestly. The finale was so disappointing and just on par with how shitty the Marvel TV show finales have been. I sense you disagree.
I do disagree. I don't think the finale was as satisfying as it could have been, but the show overall, I mean, this was when the first trailer came out, I was pretty unenthused about watching this show. I just didn't think it looked very good. I would say going into finding out about the slate of Disney Plus content, I was probably the least excited about Miss Marvel. And then after that, probably She-Hulk, just because I didn't have any familiarity going into it with Tatiana Maslany. And then watching both of those shows, those are two of the Disney Plus shows I enjoyed the most. I mean, my God, I'm so with you on this being Disney finally figuring out TV, because most of the show was like, this is great. They finally have the tone problem solved. They're not trying to do as much of your typical like superhero show. I still think that the big flaws that this show had tended to be when they had to do superhero showy things, like when people were trying to steal her blood, like any kind of a situation like that just didn't play quite as well as the idea that She-Hulk is a different kind of person that got superpowers. So yeah, her battles would literally be in the courtroom instead of being out on the streets as a vigilante. Really, really, really enjoyed it. I think that the satisfaction thing, just to circle back to the point that I started ranting about, the satisfaction thing for me is just that they did the move where you talk about doing something different and then you don't really do it. Like they used the entire KEVIN thing to sidestep the idea of having any kind of big closure in the episode whatsoever. I think about that moment in Avengers Endgame where the two sides, the two armies of good and evil are coming forward and clashing, and watching that in the theaters, all of us expected them to just cut to the resolution after that. We're not used to actually seeing that fight happen. I feel like this kind of did that cut, unfortunately, where like I would have been over the moon about this finale if she had that meeting with Kevin, talked about how she wants to do things differently in her show, and then proceeded to go back to where she left off and do things differently. But instead, this kind of gave us the idea of we want to do things differently and then didn't do anything, just kind of cut to the resolution. I didn't like that. But outside of that, loved this show.
I think as soon as she as soon as they're like her like getting out of like the Disney Plus screen and crawling into another screen, I was like, this fucking sucks. I was so mad. It's such a cop out. And then everyone's like, it's cool because she's asking, when are we going to get the X-Men? Like it's self-aware, but it's lazy writing. They're phoning it in by doing this. This is a huge cop out. They could just see, wouldn't it make sense if the moral of the story was like, she's kind of figuring herself out. She's the She-Hulk when the law doesn't apply. And when it does, she's Jen. So why can't you just end in a courtroom? Why can't you have her do the thing that she's good at? Why can't you just end with like a legal drama? Why can't you show any growth whatsoever? Instead, you leave and come back later without showing any of the shit. Like, I want to see how this resolves. It doesn't. And she's like, oh, why do we have to do this big battle? Why is the Hulk here? It's like, we don't even need any of that. If the end is just her resolving her conflict with Todd, that's a perfectly fine finale for this show. I wasn't expecting like a crazy Abomination fight. I was expecting, you're building up to this thing with Todd. You have to repair your self-image. Because the previous episode is like, she's a monster, she's unstable, she's a nightmare. How do you repair that? And then she doesn't. She doesn't. And she kind of deals with it. She doesn't really do. I mean, just the Kevin thing was just, it was so weak. It was so lazy. And I mean, you know, we have our toe in the industry. I've heard about some of these Marvel TV jobs. I've heard that these people are phoning it in because it's just a superhero thing. And that was never more evident than in this finale. It was such a cop out. They showed. They told instead of showed, and they could have just showed, and they did. It was fucking lazy. It was awful. It was embarrassing. They should be embarrassed for the finale. It was absolute shit.
Oh my God.
It fucking buried the show. It doesn't bury the show. The show's great. The show is so good. I really want to talk about how good the show is. But again, the finale, absolute trash, absolute garbage, lazy, pathetic, just as bad as as good as the rest of the show was. The finale was bad. Can't. They just punted. They just fucking punted. It's second down and they punted the ball. Like, just grow up and write. Grow up and write anything. But instead, it's just her sitting on a floor. Also, her just battling people in quote unquote real life. And she's the She-Hulk and she's barely beating these guys in like a hallway. I'm like, she can clap her hands and send a shockwave that ripples the air and like bends trees. And she can't beat up one guy guarding Kevin Feige, you know?
Wow.
I mean, it's just...
Look, this is an evil villain. This is just a bodyguard.
It's fucking
She's taking it easy on them. It's like, did you ever hear the thing where in Spider-Man Homecoming, he doesn't throw a single punch at a person because it's a lot easier to regulate your strength with your legs. And so the way they integrated that is they knew that Peter at that point wouldn't necessarily know how strong he is with a punch. And so he's just kicking people in that entire movie to make sure that he doesn't kill anyone.
That's funny.
I think she
that's
was
great.
doing that.
Maybe she was, but who cares? It's not real. It's like completely fake. I like her turning to the camera. I think it's cute. Whatever. Throughout the show, she's somewhat self-aware. She's referencing us, but going so far that it's like, I am in a TV show. This is stupid. I can just control this and rewrite this at any point is bad. I don't know. It's not good. It loses me at that point, right? If she can just snap her fingers and change anything about her reality, then why are there stakes? Why do we care? Why is there anything? Her turning to us and saying like, this has to be the end, right? It's not shit, you know, like that is interesting. That is cool. But they're doing like some weird fourth wall breaking. It's too much. They took it too far. I mean, I want to compare and contrast this with Deadpool, which is like anytime anybody wants something, like everybody just wants more Deadpool. I feel like they're like, what if Marvel TV did just Deadpool? You know, we want like a She-Hulk. She's breaking the fourth wall, but like a badass like Deadpool. And it felt like they were separate and distinct enough. And Deadpool never just like completely broke the reality in a way of like, you can't care about any of this. You know, I know the writers, we can re-edit stuff. Like, it's not that kind of thing. It's self-aware, but it's not jumping out of the movie. And then She-Hulk was doing like if Deadpool's here, like in the middle, She-Hulk started below and then just ended like a mile above Deadpool. Just like, I don't know. I don't need a character that's completely self-aware. Like, you think at some point she's just going to be like, hey, my name is actually Tatiana Maslany. I'm an actor. These are all actors. Here's Jamila Jamil. She plays Titania. I know you were expecting more Titania. And then they all just come out and take a bow together. Like, that's kind of what, like, I just hate it, Kevin. I absolutely hate it. I can't believe people liked it. It's terrible. Should we talk about what's good about the show, though?
Let's talk about what's good. I didn't hate the finale as much as you did. I do. Basically my only thing, I'm completely okay with everything they did in the fourth wall breaking, specifically because that does have such a history in She-Hulk comics. I'm pretty sure She-Hulk was doing it before Deadpool even existed. But I I mean, like I said, my big gripe is just the fact that they did the entire Kevin thing and they cut to after the resolution had already happened, because it felt jarring to cut to that when we cut away to her going back to the Disney Plus entrance. Things were so heightened. Everybody was at such a point where everybody was about to tear out each other's throats. And then to cut back to a point where people are, I guess you could kind of make the argument that she was still diffusing things because she hadn't like slapped Todd with a lawsuit yet, any of that kind of stuff. But their what do you call it? Like emotion level was so much lower by the point that we came back that it was a little bit jarring to come to that. But yeah, let's talk about the good stuff. Let's talk about how good the show was.
Is there any way we could get She-Hulk in a movie now? Because it feels like, and I was kind of curious about how they would incorporate Deadpool into the MCU, right? Is he going to be like his own thing, or She-Hulk who can just leave her own TV show at any point to go talk to a Kevin Feige robot? How does she fit into Endgame? Because Thanos could be coming out and then She-Hulk would just be like, actually, I don't like this at all. And then just change it. Like it's great. Like she cannot be a part of the rest of the MCU. But then one of the things I loved was seeing Daredevil. Fucking awesome. Charlie Cox, the man. I loved their episode hanging out together. I thought they had great chemistry. It was so fun to see them together. I love the power up that Daredevil got. It was awesome. It was so cool. It was like a little jokey, but also like it was almost a near perfect reboot of Daredevil. I think I was so happy with that. And so when Daredevil gets his own show, is She-Hulk going to be able to show up and like snap her fingers and Kingpin goes to jail? Like, will She-Hulk ever be a part of Daredevil? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I can't make both things. There's been a base reality this whole time, and there is no base reality in She-Hulk. So she can't be a part of anything else. She can't. It doesn't make any sense. But she is.
I think they can. I think they can, specifically because you take it from the direction of things work like this in her show because it is through the lens of her personality. Like what we talked about with Miss Marvel and the kind of like animated stuff they're doing in the background, the texting and all that. I think this is probably just going to be treated kind of like that. Like it's the situation for She-Hulk. But if she shows up in another movie or something, I don't think we'll get more than maybe a wink at the camera, because even a wink at the camera just does not sit right with how grounded like the Russo brothers tend to keep their movies, you know?
It really doesn't. What do you think of Daredevil?
Loved him. Oh my God. Charlie Cox is so unbelievably good as Daredevil. It blows my mind.
He's incredible.
I'm so happy with that casting. I am as happy with his casting as I continue to be unhappy with Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin.
I think it was a little bit better in Hawkeye, but still not great. I think the acting and the characters in this were just top notch. I mean, Tatiana Maslany, I don't really know anything about her. I don't think this is my first experience with her. She is a gem. She is a superstar. I mean, I don't know what. She's incredible. She's so goddamn good. Her assistant, Nikki, is incredible. She's great. I feel like I've seen that guy that hangs out with them before. I can take or leave him, but I'm like, as far as like the leads of this, it's like, this is awesome. These are crushing it. And I care so much about these characters, which I guess is why I'm also upset about the finale, right? Is because I was very invested in the She-Hulk character. I was very invested in Jen. And when she's going on these dates as She-Hulk and as Jen, I felt bad for her. Like I felt things watching She-Hulk. I was invested. The moment when she's like she's finally making it work with this guy and he spends the night and then he steals her blood. I was like, oh, I felt so bad for her. Like she can't get a break. It was awesome. It was truly awesome how I felt something watching this show. And I wish they could have stuck the landing, but it was a lot of that. I mean, I could watch 5 seasons of this, of She-Hulk figuring her life out. It's all very relatable. You know, she's great.
Oh my God, it's so good. Tatiana Maslany is like an S tier casting in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like she is, for my money, right up there, perfect casting wise with like the Chris's and Robert Downey Jr. Like just, I'm same as you. I know Orphan Black was like her big show on the BBC. Never saw Orphan Black. But holy mother of God, is she a good actor? She's got incredible comedic chops. I think it can like legitimately carry a dramatic scene. I was thinking about it today. Go with me on this one because this is going to feel like a big swing at first, but I think it over, it works. I think she is the closest person I've seen in recent memory to Bill Murray's sense of humor on screen, where there's kind of an aloofness to it, but like there's like a flippancy to it, but you still read so much like charisma in there. So like this person being kind of aloof, but they're so charismatic that you go with it. I think about some of the lines that if you go back and watch Ghostbusters, Peter Venkman is a scumbag. Peter Venkman as a character does not hold up, does not even come close to holding up. He spends a lot of the movie being a real creepy skeeve. I was thinking about it, and if you plug in Tatiana Maslany saying some of the same stuff, it's just really charming and really fun. And I think she gets the same comedic payoff.
I don't think her and Bill Murray are like in the same. I can't even put them in the same category. I feel like she's a much better actor than Bill Murray.
She's definitely a better actor.
Bill Murray's a comedian, I feel like. And maybe her delivery is similar, but there's an emotional. But I think a lot of her comedy and stuff comes from like an emotional place. Mm-hmm. And it felt like there were all these like awkward moments, like she's the bridesmaid, they're asking her to clean up and stuff like that. And I just like felt it. Like the writing was so good in those moments of just like this awkwardness. And then she's giving that look, but it's like kind of like she's taking a beating. Whereas like I feel like Bill Murray's like almost a little more condescending, you know, whereas she's like always the underdog, like fighting her way up. But I mean, she's great, man. She's so good. Man, there were so many moments, dude. And she fucks. This She-Hulk, very sex positive show. I mean, she's definitely had the most sex of anyone in the MCU, right? Like that's great. Definitely happened. It's cool. It's like, it feels very grown up. I feel like they're talking about stuff. There's moments, and you know, I'm not critical of it, but they do. I guess I'm always critical of Marvel when they tell, don't show. And we don't need it. And there were like moments in like some of the earlier episodes where it's like, you know, oh, I'm better at being the Hulk because I'm a woman. And it's like, I don't think you need to come out and say that. You know, I like when you show that. You can, because they show that in the show. And there's some moments like that. And then like the finale where they just like beat you over the head with an idea as opposed to like just doing the thing. And the character is so good. And like the whole show in general is like, I don't know, so positive and says a lot of cool stuff. And I wish they didn't feel the need to like hammer it all the time. And they just did it. Not that they do it a lot, but there was just some of the stuff with like Hulk was weird, but I don't know. It's also funny that like the people who are like really outraged about that stuff are all just like a bunch of incels online. And then like the main villain of the show is just like a bunch of incels in the show. Like, what a fun troll. What an awesome move. I love that her arch nemesis is Todd, who is just straight up a weird, suppressed white guy. And I heard something like his name is supposed to be similar to the guy who did Joker, you know, and it's kind of like a critique of that potentially.
Oh, my God. Awesome.
So it's kind of a shot at Joker. Like, this is weird. These guys are like kind of sketchy. And I love that stuff. I think all that stuff's great. And it's like a really good conversation. And I don't know. It was just so good. It was just so good. A lot of it.
I fucking loved it. I'm okay with some of the telling specifically in this context though, because like the scene where that first episode scene, I think it is, where she talks about how having to bottle up your rage and get through every single day is a unique experience as a woman. That's something where like I myself personally, being a very dense person, I don't know that I necessarily would have picked it up as explicitly. I think I maybe would have interpreted that as being part of Jennifer Walters' character. But it was definitely a moment for me where, being totally candid, she said that and I was like, oh, like, so I think I'm who that was for.
I guess it did too. I guess I did think about it. I guess I was positive about it, but I mean, yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's also a great point.
Yeah,
it's not a bad point. It's a great point. It's a great like example of this. I guess I wish they could have tricked me into like figuring it out. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. I don't know that they have that luxury though, necessarily.
Yeah, maybe they don't. Maybe they just don't.
Maybe that's the thing too. We talked about like, I remember reading something with the showrunner where she talked about how she wanted to make a very sex positive show that like was also okay for kids to watch, and kind of like navigating that and figuring out how to pull that off in the bounds of a Disney show. And that really had me questioning what age group Marvel properties are targeted at. I think that's something that's I think it fluctuates through the MCU in a way that can be kind of jarring as an experience to watch, having started in 2008 and now being 14 years into it? 14 years, right? Yeah, it's 2022. Great.
A long time.
Long time. Ostensibly, we now are at the age range. We've been watching these movies for 14 years. Maybe these things are made for 14-year-olds. Maybe it's lower. Maybe it's 12-year-olds. Like maybe people weren't even born yet.
She-Hulk is not made for 14-year-olds. I think this is aimed at like late 20s something, early 30s something. Like it just, I feel like it is, you know, like there's so many, or maybe not. Maybe it is just widespread, but there were so many awkward, uncomfortable moments like on the dates where I like just really felt like related to Jen, you know, on a level that I just, you know, kids won't and kids don't. So, you know, it was great. I just feel like it made a ton of good points, and yeah, it was great. I don't know what else to even say that's so positive about it. I just really enjoyed the show. I looked forward to it every week. It was funny. It was charming. I liked all the characters. It was great.
Yeah.
Great.
I think what's cool about this is the idea that one of the things that has always shined about Marvel when they get something really right is that you care more about the person when they're not in their super suit than when they're in their super suit. Like when they're pulling it off right, you're almost a little bit disappointed to see someone put a mask on because you're heading into an action scene, but you care about the stuff that's happening outside of those action scenes, which I guess I'm just describing as a gateway drug into non-superhero content. But like, this is really cool because it deals with the idea that suddenly people care more about Jen when she is She-Hulk, who is not someone that she even feels like she is. And the idea that like, I don't know, maybe it's like the idea of she is a classic Marvel character in that way where you care more about her as Jen, but she's struggling with the idea that people mostly just care about the superhero side of things. I think there's a lot of reads in this. And I mean, just to do all that, to be such a consistently fun show. You mentioned you would watch 5 seasons of this. I think my only beef is that this was only 9 episodes. And this is something that they have to figure out with the Disney Plus stuff. We've already seen Armor Wars got changed from a Disney Plus series to a movie. So the equivalent of basically cutting that to like 3 episodes. The initial slate of shows, I think they were, WandaVision was like 8 episodes. I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier and all those things, I think they run like 6, maybe it's 8. Just a weird, yeah. I know She-Hulk was the longest one so far. Werewolf by Night, 1 hour, one off. I don't know. Why are they picking the lengths for this?
The lengths are strange, especially when you're just going to phone it in for the finale. Like, why not?
Oh my God.
Just make it 8 episodes. Just like end on. What if they just ended on like the 8th episode and it's her raging out? You could just end on that, and then we've got a whole season or whatever, a whole off season to just like wonder what happens next. You know, like that's crazy. That would be so crazy. maybe unsatisfying, but
sorry, man. This is my flu game. I think it'd be unsatisfying. But just because by the time we would circle around to season 2 of She-Hulk, we would be like, oh, but why is, Wong talking to Red Guardian it's like a Mad Lib. Like, why is Wong talking to Red Guardian on top of the Empire State Building? Like, there's other things we'd be worried about by then.
Right. I think maybe maybe they don't have like the length figured out, but this is the first show where each episode kind of felt a little aimless in a very television way. Like, it's not just A to B to C. It's like each episode, she's got a different thing she's trying to figure out. There's maybe some overarching things. There's some tiny arcs, like with each trial, I guess. But it felt like you could just turn on a random episode, enjoy it, turn it off, like go back, watch another episode. Like, that is something that none of the other shows had. I feel like I didn't have that feeling. Whereas like She-Hulk felt like, I don't know, you could just like more of an episodic show or something where you could just tune in every week. Yeah. I loved it. That feeling was great. Did She-Hulk like look bad to you?
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's definitely the biggest flaw. Like,
it looks horrible. And I couldn't tell, like, did the Hulk look worse? I couldn't tell. I think the Hulk looked, even in this show, the Hulk looked better than Jen Walters. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe some of that is like, oh, we've invested so much time into like movie Hulk that we can't just do a shitty version of the Hulk for this show. But then comparing the two, it's like one of them has like wrinkles on his face and the other one is just like a blank. It's just like flat everywhere that isn't eyes and nose and mouth. It's very strange.
I was watching a VFX video on this where it was like, it's like one of those channels where the whole premise is VFX guys break down the trailers for this week and tell you what's going good and what's going bad. And I clicked on it because I was like, oh, they're going to dunk on the She-Hulk trailer because of how bad she looked in that trailer. But they were actually very, very kind about it. The first thing that they pointed out was the fact that the trailer most people watched was the trailer on YouTube, but Disney uploaded the video to YouTube with the wrong compression settings. And so the compression was off and it smoothed out everything and got rid of a lot of the detail. I guess one of the things that helps us read CGI things as being more realistic is when they have more texture to them and they look less like smooth and computer generated, like stuff did in like 1997, the Power Rangers movie.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons that Hulk looks better in general is because they gave him that stubble. And because he has that stubble on his face, it's more points that our brains track. And so it ends up looking more realistic, where because there's less of that for She-Hulk, because they're not going to give her a beard, she inherently kind of reads wrong. And part of this is also definitely like the VFX problems at Marvel have been talked about to death at this point, just how hard they are, how terrible they are on their VFX team. Some of the shit in Thor Love and Thunder looks unforgivably bad. I can't even remember if we talked about this on the pod, but there's a scene where Thor and Jane are walking on a bridge on one of the planets they visit, and their masks magically appear on their faces. I was so mad that the masks magically appear on the faces. The masks looked like a Snapchat filter. That is not an exaggeration. It is some of the worst CGI I've ever seen in my life. Granted, that same exact movie has that awesome sequence on the moon that they shot with that like new lighting setup thing. That lighting setup thing was amazing. The sequence on the moon was great. But some of these more basic VFX shots, I would take another 2-year like pandemic-esque pause in the MCU movies if it meant that they could get caught up and start working ahead on VFX. Because man, we're going to talk about Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power next week. And that show had fucking incredible VFX. And like,
that show's amazing.
It stings that these Marvel properties are some of the most popular things that are out there. And they have some of the shittiest effects at this point.
I did not notice in Love or Thunder at all. I was just along for the ride. I just enjoyed it. It didn't stand out to me at all.
I'm gonna send
in
the clip.
This, it felt so obvious. In the shows, it feels so obvious because they're not CGIing a bunch of stuff in the background. Like they're not doing these like elaborate sets in the same way. Mm-hmm. So they're just in an office with 6 other people and a giant CGI creature, and that's jarring. My eye is drawn to it. My eye is a little more critical of it. It's weird. The design's cool. Who's your favorite cameo aside from Daredevil? You get a favorite cameo in this show?
Oh boy. I mean,
because
I really loved the David Pasquesi character.
Or are you going to say the same one? That?
He played Mr. Immortal. He's from TJ and Dave. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God. That was such a funny.
He's fun.
And then the cut in the credits, the like paintings they would do over the credits, that painting of him having to hold the sustained eye contact while he apologizes. They just had like beads of sweat coming off his forehead. It was so fucking funny. Who was yours?
The idea that he kept killing himself to like get out of legal obligations. So fun. I mean, that's like when the show's humming, right? Is like you find a guy, like, I guess he's a superhero, but it also makes sense that he's not involved in that. He's not really a superhero. He's just some schmuck who's like got this weird power. And now they have to figure out the legal ramifications of this like very specific thing. Incredible. I think my favorite was the Wrecking Crew, which showed up and they just ambushed She-Hulk. I didn't love the way that they were like portrayed necessarily, but I was excited to see the Wrecking Crew because I feel like growing up reading the Avengers, they were like around a lot more. And I think there were moments where like, they got stronger and beat the Avengers. And like, I just remember really fun stories with the Wrecking Crew. So I'm kind of bummed they were so short-lived. I wish we'd seen more Wrecking Crew. I feel like we could get more Wrecking Crew, even though that one guy had a face turn pretty hard. But I just like to see the Wrecking Crew. I don't know why we couldn't just open on Daredevil fighting the Wrecking Crew, in a bank or something like that. Like it'd be great. It'd be so great to see these guys again.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. I definitely huge soft spot for the Wrecking Crew. Hated how they were portrayed here. I wanted to see a little bit more in a show that was going out of its way to give us some of the weirder, more fantastic elements, like the fucking leapfrog costume.
Yes.
I wanted to see more of a classic take on the Wrecking Crew. Like, if we're going to get that, I want to see them in the dumb, colorful garb. I feel like I hate this thing that Marvel does with magical objects where it just kind of glows purple for no fucking reason. Like, just let it be a big crowbar, like, or let the crowbar shine a little bit, but it doesn't need to hum and glow the entire time. It's hokey. It's awful. And it's off-putting.
We could have got an origin for them.
We could have
just had them with their stuff. And then something happens. They come back.
My other thing with the Wrecking Crew, the one that ends up in Emil Blonsky's like rehabilitation camp. There's no world, if I were Jen, there's no world in which I would ever be cool with that guy again. Getting ambushed in the dark outside your house by 5 guys. It doesn't matter if you are the She-Hulk. Like, no, that is a permanent, absolutely not, never cool with those people ever again in my entire life. I was shocked to see that she ended up kind of friendly with that guy and was like willing to give him a hug in the finale because just fuck no.
It is strange. If she isn't the She-Hulk, that doesn't happen at all.
Oh, no.
If she's a normal person, you never trust that human being again.
Fuck no.
She probably can't die. I mean, there were all those things with the Hulk where he like tried to put a bullet in his mouth and the Hulk spit it out. So like I'm sure she's okay. If they hit her, she'd probably Hulk out and then murder everybody. Like, she's not worried about getting mugged, but I mean, you're right. It is like for any human being that would be just a non-starter. Even if I somehow kicked all their asses, I would be calling the police the second I saw that human being.
Oh, for sure.
I would be probably fighting them again. I don't know what I would do. I'd be running probably. I'd be leaving that situation immediately.
I would move. Oh my God. One last thing.
Anything else we got to touch on?
Yeah. Just in terms of talking about, I Googled this in the background. We were talking about the episode length for the different Disney Plus shows. Daredevil Born Again, 18 episodes have been ordered for that show.
Wow.
I'm scared. I think that's too many. The Netflix shows were what, like 13? And they felt interminably long.
18 for a season?
18 for a season. That's twice what Disney Plus has invested in their longest series so far. I'm mad that Daredevil, I fucking love Daredevil. I have a Daredevil action figure just out of reach. Love Daredevil. He's one of my all-time favorites. At all times. He goes where I go. But I mean, I love him. But like, I'm mad that Daredevil got 18 episodes, but She-Hulk only got 9. Maybe it's because they hadn't proven how good She-Hulk was yet. Maybe we'll get more later. God, I hope we get more She-Hulk. She-Hulk, 100 seasons She-Hulk. Huge fan.
18 can't be right. That's so many episodes. That's an insane amount of episodes.
A normal
18
TV
episodes.
series.
They don't make 18
hour.
episodes of anything anymore.
It's 23 episode order, my friend. That's a full season of anything on actual TV.
Oh my God. Do they even do 23 episode seasons anymore? Only the Blacklist? Only these, like,
the Blacklist is putting in 48 episode seasons. The Blacklist is on its 300th episode by season 3.
They're 10 seasons in and about 100 pounds in on James Spader. They're just letting it all hang out on the Blacklist. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit in the Blacklist.
Oh my God.
Daredevil's the new Blacklist. What is it? Every day he's going to come into like the FBI for a new assignment on who he's got to stop this week. How do you make an 18 episode show? It's like there's diminishing returns, right?
Yeah.
A shorter show, like a half season, you can have an arc like they've been doing. 18 episodes is like, what's even this? You can't tell a story over that whole. I'm going to be bored watching this. Like 18 episodes means you have to like, you're going to be on your phone while this is playing. You know, like I can't pay attention to 18 hours of anything. That's insane. It's insane that they would do this.
Yeah, it's too much.
And like, I'm fascinated to know what they do with Daredevil. Like, what is the take that hasn't happened yet? Like, what else can they explore? It's so cool. And I hope She-Hulk's in it. I hope they're dating. That'd be fun. It'd be cool.
Oh, it'd be amazing.
She pops in for a sode. That'd be great. I'd love it. Love more her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
So,
all right. Well, cool. Hey, 2 thumbs up from us. I think that's a pretty bold
thumbs up
recommendation.
A thumb down for the finale. A half thumb for the Wrecking Crew.
But what did you think? Do you agree? Are you with me? The finale wasn't that bad. Are you with Tim? The finale should never have existed. Let us know. Write us an email, nerdyfor30@gmail.com. That's nerdy, FOR30 @gmail.com. We just might read that on an upcoming episode. I think we got another review preview coming up in a couple weeks. So, you know, might drop some mailbag questions in there. We've gotten a couple. Got a couple.
I just realized Derek was played by David Otunga, former WWE star. I think it was that Super Jack guy who stole her blood. That could be wrong.
Weird. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Pretty interesting indeed.
I guess it'd be. Oh, and there was the whole guy who designed her costume.
Oh, he was great.
He was great.
So much
Dude,
fun.
So good. So many fun characters in this. Wong rolled in.
Yeah. Oh,
her parents were great.
Parents were great. Madison was so funny. Madison
was funny.
Madison legitimately spoiled The Sopranos for Lauren and I. It's on us after the 20-year mark. You can't be offended by a spoiler anymore. But like, it was so funny.
I don't think The Sopranos can be spoiled. I think it's just past that boundary, you know? There's no spoilers for The Sopranos anymore. No. It's been around too long. Yeah.
It's like history.
What's
There's
next?
no spoilers in history. How did the Vietnam War
What else could you spoil? The Addams Family.
Yeah.
The Brady
Can't
Bunch.
Be spoiled.
Just going to spoil the nanny.
Yeah. God, somebody spoiled Frasier for me the other day.
Oh, fuck.
You especially can't spoil a sitcom just because things never change.
It's all the same.
It's all the same.
Boy, Robin and Barney get divorced.
Yeah. Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Is that the How I Met Your Mother finale, the She-Hulk finale, Joker is an entire movie, 3 of the most painful things I've had to watch.
Wow. Didn't even rate the monsters. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. Stay nerdy. Bye.